Starting. There we go. We're on live, episode 50. This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan.
And Jason is checking Twitter to see if the auto tweet got sent. It should have.
It did. Look at that. Boom.
Yep, there you go, man.
Favored it.
Hell yeah. Good use of technology. Unlike, we were talking in the pre-show, but man, I'm so frustrated with operating systems and the lack of continuity. I mean, I can't believe I'm working on a project, just in case people don't know, with brain-machine interface research. So this is an open BCI headset. I actually love it, man. These guys came up with the idea to 3D print these headsets. The boards are basically Arduino-based boards. They're custom printed, cheap compared to the commercial offerings. But holy cow, trying to integrate with these things outside of like the official channel, because I want to write some custom programs, because I mean they're open boards, man. They have a published API. You can write software against them. Jesus Christ, man. Don't get me started.
Well, isn't it like this with anything when it comes to technology? Right? You've got we talked about what we wanted to talk about in our episode 50, because it's episode 50. And a lot of this about what technology means to us. And as much as we love technology, we all realize, at least we do, technology is a tool. It's an instrument. And your instrument, your tool, is only as good as what you can get out of it. If it's not easy, which is what we try to do in a lot of our talks, is to try to get technology to be understandable for those that don't, get deep enough for those that want to know about it in a deeper level. But this is a thing that just drives me absolutely crazy, is that why do I have to go between 10 different operating systems to finally figure out which one's going to work? Because I'm not going to spend 100 hours to get drivers to work. It used to be back in the day, Apple made things so simple, you plug it in and it just worked. They always said, oh, you don't need a driver. Now, that's not the case. I think in many ways, Apple with Mac OS X has taken 10 steps backwards. It's like they have forgotten about it, because they're like, oh, I've got an iPhone. I don't use an iPhone. I like my Mac, but I find myself using Windows 10 more and more every day.
Yeah, well, we were saying, and so here's the analogy, man. I've never been I appreciate car aesthetics, but I've never been like a mechanical car person. So I never really understood when people bemoaned the advance of technology in cars in a way where it stripped away the hobbyist modifying them. And I think that's kind of come and gone with the computerization of some of the mechanics within the automobile. And now I understand it, because that's essentially what, in my view, and I think you feel the same way, Apple's doing with Mac OS X, which now is Mac OS, one word, just like Watch OS and iOS. And it's stripping away the delineation between user, which is most people. Okay, so give them the automated experience that is, here's your browser, here's your email client, have fun, versus a power user, which wants a little more tool access so they can customize their experience, and an admin/developer, which is this position I'm in right now because of what I want to achieve with that technology as a tool. And they've completely obliterated the ability to do that, man, in my opinion. Unless you use their official tool chain.
And even using their official tool chain doesn't mean that you have everything at your disposal.
Right. Like, here's a perfect example and why I think Windows 10 is the way to go right now. Python, perfectly standard programming language. It's everywhere. It's used for a lot of different cases. Scientific computing is a prime one, which is what I'm interested in. Why does Mac OS include an outdated, almost unmodifiable installation of Python 2.7? And so all of the recommended documents, including Apple's own help files, tells you to install a new instance of Python separately, so that when there's OS updates, it doesn't wipe out all your custom modules. You got to be fucking kidding me.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I mean, this isn't even something, like sometimes my wife will say to me, you're kind of operating on the edge a little bit, so you can't be shocked that it doesn't work. I'm angry, but you have a fair point. In this case, man, this is standard stuff. I'm just talking about a Python interpreter. That's it. That's all I want.
It comes down to, I think this, and this is my overall philosophy for business. The reason why we have so many breaches, to me, it comes down to a fundamental failure of security and technology people. I need to be able to provide you the tool for you to be able to do your job at the time and place of which you want to do it on the device that you feel most comfortable with. So I may have to limit in some cases, but if I come out and I just say no, they're going to go do it anyway. A shadow organization is going to get stood up. It's going to get breached. And as a CISO or CIO, because we predict CIOs get fired, are going to get fired. So how about give them what is necessary? In this particular case, I don't know. Apple used to be, when Steve Jobs run, I'm not saying Tim Cook's doing a bad job, but is he just keeping the wheels on the cart? Right? Steve Jobs said, I'm going to give them what they need, and they're going to figure out that they want it. What happened to that? I bet you if Steve Jobs was running it, Mac OS would have the appropriate version of Python in there because he wants people developing on Mac.
Yeah. Well, and I understand having the old version. That's not a bad thing because there's a lot of backwards compatibility that has to be handled. But why tell me that if I want like Python 3, which is, that is the standard and it's certainly the future. Why tell me to put it in a different place and manage it outside of the operating system? Now,
isn't version 4 the future though?
Wow, who knows if they'll ever get there.
Fucking. Well, they're currently on 3, so it's the present.
Well, my example is like Perl never did.
Yeah,
it's effectively dead. But anyway, when are we going to get? It's the 21st century, man. When are we going to get to the concept of a just-in-time user land? So give me the kernel, give me a base operating system, and relative to what I'm trying to achieve, produce that just in time. The building blocks are there, particularly if you look at like an AWS model where you can just in time spin up whole instances of a system. So just compartmentalize that and turn applications into components. In some ways, Docker kind of has that philosophy.
Sure. That's a big reason why I'm looking to move my end users to a virtual desktop environment. So I can do application layering. If all of a sudden there's something bad, I can immediately wipe. There's no more endpoint patching. It's get rid of that Java version, put in a new Java version. It's automatically there. Done.
We did that at the first startup I worked at in the early 2000s using Citrix Metaframe.
Yeah,
there was no point in having a PC. We used Wise terminals.
Yep. Citrix has gotten so much better since then now.
It was great then.
Yeah.
I know it's massively better now, but the idea was the same.
If VMware has their own version, variant or competing application with it. Yeah. I'm going to test them both out because, that way I hate, this is the part about technology. We all hear these buzzwords, BYOD. It's not bring your own device. It's bring your own mobile operating system, iOS or Android. I really want to get it to a point to where I can go, if I have a proper virtual environment like that, like a Citrix VMware, you want to use an Acer laptop? You want to bring your own? I don't care because there's no data ever on it.
Right. Exactly. And then the nice thing is everything's in the same place. And it's way better than it was then. But the way we did it before was, you need a new app based on the role. It was almost just in time. Mm-hmm. We just changed a group in Active Directory and you had to log off and log back in and you got it.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
Done.
That's simple user training. And the nice thing about it too is then we could take it away just as easily as we gave it. So we didn't have this persistent exposure that creates a lot of security problems.
Yeah, if all of a sudden we find out it didn't work, I have my last version right there. Okay, no problem. log off, log back on, you'll have it, bam, rolled out, done.
Yeah. Well, and that's why when server virtualization through VMware really started kind of gaining ground, everybody was on it because of its consolidation power to save money, right? You didn't need 15 physical servers. Fuck it, we didn't do it that way. We did a 1-for-1 because we wanted the ability to roll those things in and out on demand.
Sure.
We did, and it worked, man. Anyway,
I just don't get why technology folks continue going down this path of, like our friend Death Star. He wants to use something that's hard because they feel like I'm being an elitist by using the most difficult version of Linux. It's not necessary. It's not easy. It requires some Linux knowledge in order to get everything to work properly.
Right.
I need people to be able to use the tool of their choice at the time and place that they need to in order to get everything done. Why are we making everything so difficult? Why is it such a badge of honor to go, yeah, I'm running Gen 2 or I'm running Arch, or someone says, well, yeah, I like Ubuntu, and then they just crap all over you because, oh, you're using Ubuntu?
Part of it's ego, man. And part of it's ego, and I think the other part of it too is that's a much safer position to be in than actually trying to innovate a new solution to a problem, because you're not solving problems. You're creating problems to solve, so that you're not really innovating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
and I don't know if that's what Death Star's kick is. I mean, I've tried to talk to him about it, but I think he thinks I'm trolling him. I'm not. I'm really trying to understand the phenomenology of why he chooses what he chooses.
Yeah, I got no problem with Arch, right? But I mean, I use it. But did I have my kid start on Arch? No way. Ubuntu. Get him. I want to get him used to command line. Get him used to figuring out how to use Wine and all those kind of things.
Well, I mean, this comes back to our definition or not our definition, our operational definition of technology to begin with. It's supposed to make your life easier by solving problems for you, right? It shouldn't create problems for you to solve. That's not technology. That's bullshit. And look, man, if I have to take a day to install a simple operating system, because an operating system is simple in essence, right? Then you're of no use to me. If I can't get this situation fixed, I can't use it.
Right. It's why I would love to have a driverless car. I'm still behind the wheel, so I still want the opportunity to be able to drive because I enjoy it. But if I can do something to increase my productivity, why not? Someone asked me, like, why do you use a GPS to go over here? I don't care to know where that place is. It's not something that I can focus my efforts on something else rather than know about that one place that I may never go to again.
Right.
So I don't care.
Well, GPS is actually a great example because I'm sure you've heard the trope that, oh, GPS makes people dumb because they don't learn how to read maps. How the fuck did the first humans figure out how to read a map? They figured it out. I'm sure I'll figure it out if I need to, but why do I want to? Right. That's what technology does. It frees me up to do things that I want to do, not things that I have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to choose to use my brain power to figure out what's going to be next faster than someone else.
Yeah.
Because if I can continue staying ahead technology-wise, well, I have an advantage.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is it should free you up to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Whatever that is for you as a human being.
Unless, of course, you work in the government.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, apparently nobody's working right now.
which is part of getting into like today's I think misconception. So many of you all know that I've been a consultant and contractor to the federal government for many years. I have very good friends that are very high level employees of the government. I'm sure some of our viewers, because some of them are at ShmooCon, they flew to ShmooCon. They're flying back today. How did that happen? The FAA is part of the government, right? TSA is part of the government. They're working, aren't they? But I thought we had a government shutdown.
Yeah, man. The I think that my biggest criticism of social media, particularly Facebook, or Facebook type situations where you can have these extended long things as opposed to Twitter. Well, let's say original Twitter, because even now they've extended it. Is the ability to spout.
I'm curious. I still won't go more than 140 characters.
Yeah, no, I won't either, man. Because actually, I think it's a great exercise to practice efficient writing.
Yeah.
Say what you have to say in 140 characters, or you're not saying it. But anyway, the fuck was I saying?
Oh, we're talking about the social media.
Oh, yeah.
Original Twitter.
So my one big criticism of social media is that it allows people to spout nonsense in a way that it appears to not be nonsense. And that's because of the human being's need for simple explanations for complex problems. So the government is not shutting down in the sense that everybody's furloughed or everybody's fired or nobody's getting paid, because some people are getting paid. Everybody, at least historically, is going to get paid later.
Yep. And
in fact, what's happened with the budget is desirable. I mean, that's a check and balance example. And that's how our government works.
Yeah.
So this idea that everybody's not working or not ever going to get paid is a overly simplistic explanation of a complex and nuanced issue.
You know, putting it in very simple for those that don't know, what happens is if you're considered non-essential employees, you're told not to come in. So what happens is the government will save money, but they're not saving money in not paying the employees because they're part of the union and they're going to get paid. It's just going to be backdated. So what happens is a lot of buildings won't be open because they're going to save money in that regard. But the employees are going to get there. And if you're an essential employee, means you're showing up, you're not getting paid today, you're going to get paid in the future still. You'll get paid when the rest of the government employees get paid. It just means for like the last major one, I think they went like a month. Mm-hmm. And they got back paid. The real challenge comes into this. How many of these government employees can go 30 days without cash? Probably not a lot of them. You know, that means they have to dive into their savings, even though they're going to get reimbursed. Doesn't matter. They had to put out that cash today.
Yeah. Well, those are the people that I shouldn't say obviously, I do, for the record, have compassion for. The other segment that is actually, I find troubling is, man, could you imagine this? And there's a lot of people in this situation right now. You're at the end of your doctoral studies. Okay. And you've been working on this experiment. Let's make something up for this, just the sake of discussion. Let's say cancer models in mice. Okay. And you've been developing this shit for years and you're waiting on these mice to mature the cancer you've injected. And those mice are going to fucking die if this goes on too long, because there's nobody there to take care of them and you're not allowed in. You can't take them home. Yeah. Beyond the people that aren't necessarily in a financial situation to survive an extended pay delay, that's the situation I feel bad for. Could you imagine have to restart your experiment after years? Oh man, I'd be fucking.
You might have to, right?
Yeah.
What if that was the cure? What if you actually did it? You would have no way of knowing.
Right. Right. The other thing I read too, this one got me, man. This one really got me, was Marsha was showing me on Facebook that somebody was talking about how, the military's not going to get paid, but these Congress people are. Well, wait a minute. Even if that were true, which it's not, even if it were true, the Congress people are the people that have to approve the budget. So, I mean, don't we want them working? I mean, that's kind of desirable.
Well, this is the part, again, the people that are considered essential, military, they're going to get paid. It's just not today. Mm-hmm. Congress probably will continue to get paid because, well, what people don't understand is that Congress is not technically government employees. They're elected officials. It's different. They don't even have the same health care that the union-based government workers are, or the volunteer service of the military. They're different. So keep that in mind. If your senators and representatives are not doing the way you want, vote them out. This was an interesting article I was reading the other day, which is just goes to show how messed up, we'll say, people's minds are in this case. The millennials are outpopulate the baby boomers today. Shown up and actually voted, they could have had who they wanted in office. But because they didn't, and the baby boomers did, you got who is in office today across the board. So you may not like the process, or it's not convenient for you, or whatever. Go vote. You don't like that the current president and Congress can't figure it out? Vote someone out of office. It's that simple.
Right. Yeah, apathy doesn't solve issues.
No,
it doesn't. And in fact, people misunderestimate how big of a problem increasingly that's going to be, the imbalance in population. I mean, we've seen this in Japan for over a decade now, and they're just hitting like the worst of it, where the vast majority of their population is skewed towards one age bracket.
Right now, millennials, they could change the world with a vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the way from their local civic council all the way up to the federal government, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the cutoff for millennials is 2001. So the youngest can't vote yet, but those born in 99 can. I think it goes 84 to 99 is considered millennials.
Something like that. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So you all can vote. Show up, do it.
Well, and just like jury duty, I view it as a civic duty. It's not a right. It's an obligation. You should feel obligated to participate. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have criticisms of those systems. I do, but that doesn't mean, at the other hand, that I don't view that as a civic obligation.
Yeah. And this is something I'm going to bring up, since we don't always get political, but this is something that's interesting to me. Manning is running for senator in Maryland.
Yeah, I read that.
Many of you all know I'm from Maryland. Thank goodness I'm no longer in Maryland. I don't. How is this not a law in the books? Okay, I am not. I believe what Manning did was traitorous. That's my opinion. He at the time, as Bradley Manning took an oath, chose to break it. As an actual government employee, he had protections that he chose not to do. Then gets caught, goes to jail, gets the operation changed, and is now Chelsea Manning. But anyway, Manning, as I like to just call this person by their last name. How is anyone able to run for political office as a convicted felon?
Well, I actually don't know how that works. So because Obama pardoned her, right?
Yeah, a pardon just means that you've done your time, but it's
right. But it doesn't expunge the conviction.
Correct. It does not expunge the conviction. It just means you are still a felon, but it is time served. He communed the sentence, basically saying you've done enough, but it does not expunge it.
Because felons cannot vote, right?
I don't know. They certainly can't, depending on the type of felony, they can't own a gun.
That's correct. There's a lot of things but
I don't know if they can vote or not. I don't know what things that they lose a right of.
Yeah, I'm reading right now. Individuals convicted of a felony are ineligible to vote whilst incarcerated, on parole, or probation. They're restored 2 years after the completion of supervised release.
Well, so Manning would be eligible to vote sometime next year.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm just going to point this out to be fair for the record. I don't know if that applies to state level conviction or federal level conviction.
That's a good point.
I just don't know, and I don't really care to look it up. Here's the bottom line. Whether you view and let's just lump Manning with Edward Snowden. whether you view them as having committed treason or not, for sure in one case they were convicted of I believe it was criminal behavior, right? I mean,
Yeah, so
those were
Manning was
criminal,
actually convicted of espionage.
right?
That's a critical point. Convicted.
Right. Um, I don't know how that works, man. I don't know how a convicted person. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think I do understand how it's going to work. That doesn't mean I think it's right. I think that's a symptom of the far extreme left viewing itself as the underdog and as the oppressed.
Yeah, sure.
And if there's any traction given to this, I don't think it's for pure political reasons in the sense of the spirit of politic, right? Of actually
Right.
trying to improve government. I think it has more to do with that symbolism, in my opinion.
Could be. Don't know. But I just find it interesting that, here we are, we're talking about government. This is probably our most government show that we've talked about. And here's Manning, publicly saying I'm running for senator. It's gone through the process. As not just a convicted felon, but a convicted felon of espionage.
Well, wait, so Manning, and as I understood it, that's for federal position, not a state position, right?
Yeah, he's going for the Maryland senator to Congress.
So doesn't that require a clearance?
It depends on if that person ever is on one of the committees that requires it, and of course Manning would not be eligible,
right?
Because the intelligence community is not going to grant a clearance. So he might be on certain committees that have nothing to do with national intelligence.
Right. So the point I was going to make was, if my understanding was correct, which in this case it seems to be, I don't understand what the end game is. What's the point? What are you trying? I mean, I applaud the participation. Don't get me wrong. But why isn't that where it started instead of ending? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Instead of committing espionage, why didn't you do your service and then try to change government?
Good point.
I don't know, man. I'm not that person. I have no idea. I wasn't there. I just find it curious. Like, is it really to change something? Is it for the fame because you can't do anything else? Is it a symptom of an underlying pathology?
Yeah, and this is the interesting part, because everyone likes to bring up different things like O.J. Simpson. You know what? We may all believe that O.J. Simpson is guilty, but a jury of our peers said no. Right? In terms of the slang, he went to jail for something else.
Right.
Everyone may believe that what Manning did was not a problem, yet a jury convicted him at the time as a him. So you may not like the legal system, you may not like the government, but what Churchill said it best, democracy is the worst form of government. It just happens to be better than the rest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is modifiable within certain boundaries, certainly more than, let's say, Marxism or socialism, or certainly more than tyranny. I mean, unless you're going to be the next tyrant.
Well, you're going to be the next tyrant in North Carolina.
You're goddamn right, man. Well, you know what I've been thinking about, man? Am I really going to run for city council, maybe mayor? That's a little bit of a stretch. Or do I want to be a judge?
That would be kind of funny.
I looked it up, man. The rules for becoming a judge in North Carolina are a bit different.
Oh, gee.
In my favor, of course.
Oh, I don't even know what to think about that.
I don't know, man. Or do I want to
judge a lot of people all the time? Then you would be able to officially be a judge.
Yeah, I just actually get a gavel that has some authority.
Yeah.
Or I've actually, and I'm being serious. I'm somewhat serious about the judgeship. I am serious about running for office. I've also thought about the State Board of Education.
Not a bad thing.
I mean, that's certainly more in my wheelhouse, but
or is it?
I don't know, man. I think it is. I'm sure. It's like anything else, especially of that size or scope. There's a status quo, and either you're going to become part of that and join it and try to do what you can to make it the best you can, or you're going to try to continue to exist outside of status quo and try to make it work. which it often doesn't. But you have to be prepared for that.
And that's a great, great point. That's all what we try to do here with this show and what we do with our lives with technology. Try to make our lives better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, man, I mean, do you follow streamers at all? Like Twitch streamers?
No, not really.
All right. So there's a character. What's that?
I don't have time.
So this is recent. There's a character. I'm going to illustrate a point this way of how I view this show and certainly my participation in it. There's a fairly famous character named Dr. Disrespect. Okay. And this dude was crushing it. Started winning multiple awards for like streamer of the year. He was getting like fucking TV dinner ads. I mean, this guy was killing it, right? And all of a sudden he stops streaming and pops up a little video. It's like a minute and 30 seconds explaining that he banged a couple chicks behind his wife's back and he had to take a break. Now, I have no idea if he actually did it. I don't know, right? And when that happened, because I found him entertaining, I would watch it in the background while I was grading papers or some shit. Here's my point: is he was a young dude, is a young guy. Funny enough, he went to Cal Poly Pomona. Go Broncos. He wasn't there when I was there, but anyway, got an enormous amount of fame and an enormous, I have to imagine, amount of money very, very fast. And if there's one thing in this world that we don't do well, is teach people how to deal with things outside of status quo. So my point was, because I was talking to Ben about it, was, look, man, you got to understand the temptations of the world and what happens, especially when you gain notoriety like this. And there's no book, just like kids, right? Especially for dads, I found. For moms, there's tons of books. For dads, there's no books. There's nothing that explains how helpless you feel when that kid comes out and you can't feed it. You can't take care of it. That's I mean, the way we're wired up biologically, the mothers.
We don't have the instruments to provide nourishment for this baby.
Right. So the best you can do is protect, right?
Yeah.
I've never found a book that really talked about that, what that feeling was going to be like. And I think that's a disservice as a society to ourselves, is we don't have a lot of conversation about what we view as reality and what that means to us and how we deal with it. And, I think technology helps a lot with that. I certainly think that. But I think another thing that helps is talking about it. How do we use technology? What does it mean to us? What's wrong? What's right? That's how I look at it, man.
That's a good point. I get it.
Maybe if somebody sat this dude down when he was younger or early on blowing up in his career, this streamer, and said, hey, look, man, you're going to be famous and you're going to go to these after dinner parties and there's going to be a lot of hookers and all they want is cash. That's all they want.
Don't know. I haven't been in that particular predicament.
I haven't either, man. But then, here's the other thing too, and this is the ability that we have that nobody else has as human beings. We can reason, right? So, I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about what could be so that I don't have to think about it when it happens. I can just react.
Well, that's the part about being, security professionals as well, is that we're constantly thinking about different situations and scenarios. How would we respond? We go through decision tree process. We go through tabletops, because the idea is that we want to have a path. Doesn't mean it may not change in the middle of the crisis, but if we don't have a plan, then that is the notion. If you fail to plan, you're certainly planning to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that. I mean, I think about what happens if I actually win the lottery. And that lottery might be the actual stuff that we hear in terms of state lotteries, things like that. Or what if all of a sudden I get that dream job and I'm now the CIO, CTO, CISO of some Fortune 500. My net worth is going to go up very, very quickly. Yeah. How am I going to react? What am I going to do? Well, I know what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of all my student loans and put enough money in the bank so my kids won't have to have student loans unless they just don't do well in school. Because my policy for them is, if you get an A, I'll give you 100% back. You get a B, you'll get 50%. You get less than a B, you bought that class. That's how I plan on doing it.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that, man. Or everybody has a slight, I shouldn't say everybody, people have a slight variation on that. Totally, man. I mean, above average performance should be incentivized.
Yeah. Like
and average or below average should not be rewarded.
Yeah. So, in all situations, average performance should not be rewarded.
Oh yeah, no. For me, that was a universal statement, not just academics.
Yep. So,
all right. Man, you know, maybe next week, man, we should talk about education and the rising cost of it. I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
You know, I have been thinking about that as well as people who say, like, it's interesting to me. We'll just put this out there as a forefront because I'd love to get some comments on this. People who believe that higher education is not valuable. And I think I can tell right away when someone did not go to college, did not play a team sport when it comes to their work performance. But more importantly, and this is like this in every aspect of life, you're really only as good as your network of people. You may need that network tomorrow. You might need it yesterday. But your network comes from, in most cases, who you collaborate with. And, you know, one of the big reasons why I'm looking at going to MIT is because that puts me in a alumni association with some high caliber people and future high caliber people that I know what to expect from those that are coming through that program.
Right. Exactly. So, well, it's just like sports, man. I mean, if you want to get better, you have to surround yourself with people that are better than you at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in theater, do I want someone that's a part of the New York ballet company or whatever ballet company in a major city, or something that might be in Potomac, Arkansas? Probably I want someone that's in one of the major ballet companies if I was in theater. Yeah. Probably. Not that there might not be some diamond in the rough, but now we're talking about what, 1 in a billion? I want to know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a good topic for next week.
Cool.
All right.
I think that's episode 50 in the can, man.
Yeah.
Momentous.
Yeah. We only got 50 more to get to 100.
I mean, I guess technically
the 500.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at some of the podcasts I listen to and I can't believe they're over 1,000 now. And I started listening when they were like at 50. It's crazy to think how much time has passed. Well, how much work goes into this too. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, friends.
Later, everybody. Have a good week. Talk to you next weekend.
Peace.
Bye.